Recently, I was playing the Shadow of War game. Great game, by the way. If you haven't played it, you should probably check it out. And I was thinking about how unique the enemy AI was for a game this old, but also how this isn't the norm for games in 2026. So what makes the enemy AI so great in the Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor games is the Nemesis System. So what is the Nemesis System? Well, it's a groundbreaking gameplay mechanic introduced by Monolith Productions in the Shadow of Mordor and War games. To put it simply, the Nemesis System creates NPC or AI enemies with memory, personality, and progression. Instead of the generic enemy NPCs that disappear once defeated, you interact with a persistent cast of enemies who grow, change, and remember your actions. But if we want to get into more details, the Nemesis System represents a move away from the static and scripted story structure that dominated the gaming industry for decades. Usually in games, the NPCs are bound to a predetermined timeline influenced by elements such as plot points and acts. These NPCs appear and behave according to a script that does not account for the specific nuances of a player's experience. In contrast, the Nemesis System uses the player's behavior, whether they win, lose, or flee combat, and allows the NPC enemies to remember and respond to those decisions over time, which results in a situation where the player's actions have tangible long-term consequences in the game world, fostering a deep sense of cause and effect. Monolith Productions intended to create enemy NPCs that players would love to hate or hate to love, maximizing the emotional connections through long-term rivalries established in the game. This allows for the Nemesis System to function as a dynamic storytelling engine that reacts to player behavior rather than following a fixed narrative script. Unlike traditional artificial intelligence, which operates within a predetermined behavioral loop, every significant enemy in the Middle-earth games possesses a persistent data profile that evolves. This includes not only combat, but also complex psychological traits, fears, and memories of every encounter NPC enemies have with the player. Each captain in the Nemesis System is the result of a procedural assembly process that draws from a vast pool of assets that consist of unique names, visual appearances, voice actors, and personality archetypes. The system uses these variables to ensure that each encounter feels unique, avoiding the cannon folder trope typical of the genre. Beyond aesthetics, enemies are assigned specific combat roles, such as warrior, archer, hunter, savage, defender, or olog, each with their own sub-roles and combat nuances. What makes the Nemesis System revolutionary is the implementation of the memory the enemy NPCs have. They don't exist in a vacuum.
Typical. Vengeance is my duty. My blood brother taught me that. And he taught me about ranger tricks, too!
You know, I don't get you. You're good at killing my guards, but you don't seem to get a thrill out of it!
They remember whether a player defeated them, whether they managed to kill the player, or whether the player fled combat. This memory is translated into dialogue and specific behavior changes. An enemy who escaped a battle might return with a newfound fear of fire if they were burned, or they might develop a hate of stealth if the player repeatedly used sneak attacks against them. This creates a world where player actions is directly reflected in the behavior and evolution of their adversaries, fostering a sense of control over the game's narrative. One of the most profound ways the Nemesis System changes gameplay is through the subversion of the standard game over loop. In most titles, a player's death results in a reload of a previous state, effectively erasing the consequence of failure. In the Middle-earth series, death is a canonical event that fuels the evolution of the enemy hierarchy. For example, when you are killed by an enemy, that enemy is immediately rewarded for their feat. If the enemy was a generic grunt, they are promoted to the rank of captain, receiving a unique name, a title, and a position within the army hierarchy. If the killer was already a captain, they gain a power level, making them more dangerous, and they may be even promoted to a higher rank or gain new abilities and followers. This mechanic transforms death from a frustrating loss of progression into a narrative catalyst. You're not just returning to the fight, you're returning to a world that has actually changed because of your failure. The enemy who killed you will even mock you, referencing the previous kill and reinforcing the burgeoning rivalry. And the best part is the enemy hierarchy is a living social structure that operates even when you're not directly intervening. Captains are consistently vying for power through a series of missions such as duels, executions, feats, and beast hunts. These power struggles also serve as several gameplay functions, where the player can choose to intervene in these missions either to eliminate the powerful threat or to manipulate the outcome to favor an orc they intend to recruit later. In the Shadow of War specifically, the Nemesis system was expanded to include the management of a friendly army. The branding or domination mechanic allows you to manipulate the Nemesis system that previously only produced enemies, turning antagonists into loyal followers. This shifts the gameplay from a simple survival to tactical infiltration. Players can assign captains to act as personal bodyguards who can be summoned into battle at any time, or spies sent to infiltrate a war chief's or overlord's inner circle, becoming their bodyguard. During a fortress assault, these spies will even turn on their master, significantly simplifying the battle for you. Followers can also be commanded to hunt down and kill enemy captains, allowing for you to thin the enemy ranks without direct intervention. There is also hidden mechanics like loyalty and betrayal. The loyalty in the Nemesis system is never static. It's a hidden variable influenced by the player's leadership style.
I am no longer a slave, but this scar earmarks me forever. Even slaying you won't change that.
A follower's loyalty can be bolstered or eroded by specific actions, leading to dramatic betrayals. Betrayals are designed to maintain the chaos and unpredictability of the system. You might call for your bodyguard in a desperate moment, only to have that bodyguard reveal that they have switched sides, turning a difficult fight into a near impossible one. This mechanical looseness ensures that the player never feels entirely in control of their army, mirroring the treacherous nature of society. The Nemesis system also functions as a narrative generator by following the fundamental rule of improvisation. For example, you set an orc on fire, the system would build upon this scenario, and a possible outcome could be the orc survived, and now he is back as the Flame of War, with a charred face and a hatred for fire, creating a game where the story can vary from one encounter to another. The most explicit way the Nemesis system communicates its personal nature is through the dialogue system. While the orcs are not speaking through generative AI, their introduction, taunts, and combat barks are selected from a massive matrix of thousands of pre-recorded lines. These lines are selected and strung together based on the current actions of the NPC and their history with the player. This is done by the system evaluating dozens of variables to select the appropriate dialogue for an encounter.
I tell my boys, show no mercy, take no prisoners. What do they do?
Take shrocking prisoners! Always they send me to do the rotten jobs, eh? And now you show up too?
You thought you could kill my blood brother and live? Now you die the way he'd want you to.
Why so grim?
Don't you love your work?
Those are the last words you're going with?
So the prey fishing a can, the table's on my hunters, eh? I'll show our intruder who the real predator is!
These speeches are a combination of personality lines, tribal taunts, and situational observations, ensuring that each siege feels like a unique confrontation between two military commanders rather than a scripted scene. Now, for all the amazing things that come with the Nemesis system, Monolith decided that there must be a price that should be paid, and that's your soul. In the form of losing your mind, because death isn't always death. This not only applies to you, this applies to the enemy NPCs. One of the most potent triggers for personalization in the Middle-earth games is the cheat death mechanic. Any orc that a player has interacted with significantly has a chance to survive their apparent death and return to ambush the player later. This survival is not random, but is governed by a hidden player interaction score, which tracks the depth of the relationship between the player and the enemy NPC. So the probability of the NPC enemy cheating death is based on the intensity of each interaction they have with the player. For example, being killed by the orc weighs more than simply fighting it. This formula ensures that the orcs you know best are the ones most likely to persist and become legendary rivals. So, the Nemesis system sounds like a really cool foundation for games in general. Yet, as of 2026, the mechanic is only used within a single franchise. Its widespread use has been halted by a combination of legal protections, prohibitive implementation costs, and the volatile shifting of corporate ownership. In simpler terms, it is patented by Warner Bros. Studio, and well, they have been holding on to the system without even using it, and they are currently trying to sell off their assets. Maybe in the future, the general public would have access to the system and it could push the growth of games in another direction that isn't solely based on graphics. But until then, we have companies developing systems similar but not exactly the same to avoid legal retaliation. For example, Ubisoft has their mercenary system in Assassin's Creed Odyssey that uses a hierarchy, but it is largely a static leaderboard of bounty hunters who hunt the player based on their notoriety level. And Digital Extreme that uses the Kuva Lich system in Warframe that was initially intended to create a deep, persistent rivalry system heavily inspired by Shadow of Mordor. However, following the publication and the eventual grant of the Nemesis patent, Digital Extreme's Lich system was significantly altered. Unfortunately, as of now, the Nemesis system mechanic exists as a revolutionary blueprint that has been effectively archived. But let me know what you think. Have you played the Middle-earth games? What games do you think would have benefited with the Nemesis system? Let me know down in the comments, and please be sure to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.